Hello ladies and gentlemen, MarauderEX here with another rant video, because you know, I can't leave well enough alone. Really, I just can't. E3 2013 has come and gone, and I'm going to talk about E3 a little bit. I was not excited for E3 starting off, and the fact that I was actually doing work for a gaming news site, you would think I would be excited for it, but I just wasn't. Nothing looked like it was going to impress me. Everything that I saw, that pre-E3 teasers, I'm like, I don't, the fucks I don't give. Really, that was really my attitude toward it. And then the Konami pre-event happened. I'm like, okay, I'm getting a little intrigued now. I bought in. I drank the Kool-Aid with Lords of Shadow. Or Lords of Shadow, Castlevania, the Castlevania franchise reboot. I drank the Kool-Aid with that. I bought it. I bought the collector's edition. I regretted it because it was not Castlevania. It was God of War. I was very disappointed by that. And then they showed off Castlevania Lords of Shadow 2, and I'm like, okay, I'm falling into this cycle. It's an abusive relationship, Konami. You and I have an abusive relationship. You abuse me. You get my hopes up, and you abuse me. So I got excited for that, and then I'm like, well, you know, maybe this will be good. And then I start watching, and then it's just train wreck. Okay, so starting off, I'm going to talk about the big three and their press conferences, and why I've lost faith. First off, Microsoft. Do I really need to talk about Microsoft? Do I? I'm going to. Yeah. Just sit back. This is going to happen. So Microsoft had the least amount of time between their original console reveal for their standalone press conference and E3. They had the least amount of time because they did it in May, I think. I don't remember. I don't remember when. It was a couple months. It was after the PS4. I don't remember if it was March or May. I don't remember. Time is a thing that I don't pay attention to anymore, you know? So, but they had the least amount of time. Their first press conference, they got reamed, like hardcore, for not showing any games. It was all this other tech BS that no one cared about. And then they kind of casually throw in, oh yeah, these are the restrictive policies we've put into place. And then they didn't talk anything about it. They tried to issue some statements, but they're like, oh, just wait for E3, we'll have more information. And then E3 rolls around, and then they don't have any information. E3 comes out, and then it's all games. Games. This is what, hey, Xbox One is still a gaming console. But then they still ignored all the restrictive policies, and it took interview upon interview upon interview, and press release, and the official press packet, and all this stuff to try to piece together Microsoft's system and their plan for the Xbox One about how used games work, how game lending works, how the Kinect, all of this stuff that really should have been very concisely addressed was not. And then you've got people going left and right just making completely asinine statements of, oh, if you want a console that's not online, stick with a 360. You don't say shit like that. You just don't. You don't sit here and say, oh, well, our servicewomen who are on a nuclear sub, I can't even imagine what that's like, but you should just play a 360. That shows you have no confidence in the direction your product is taking. That if that is your default answer. And I get, there were some comments that they were trying to, I forget who was saying that, but they were trying to shut him up hardcore for days, and he just kept talking. But that's the thing. No one knows what was going on. It's been several days since their press release, and only now are people actually being able to piece things together in a concise manner to figure out how the Xbox One works. You guys are in serious damage control mode, and you don't seem like you care at all. You're like, oh, well, they don't like it, fuck them, we're done. Don't care. And that really turned me off to Microsoft. It really did. And even with some decent exclusives, it just really killed it for me. Like, I don't mind the always-on internet. I really don't. I can safely say I don't mind the always-on internet. I have internet. But I don't like the fact that if I don't check in once every 24 hours, I don't get to play the games. Like, I play games on Steam, and Steam needs to connect to the Steam servers to authenticate, but not once every 24 hours. And even so, even if Steam is down, even if my internet connection is down, I can still play my games. And that is the biggest pet peeve about that, is just how restrictive it is. It's like, if you want to take the Xbox One and turn it into the console equivalent of Steam, and where you download the games and you don't really own them, you own the license to play them, that sort of thing, it's great. But you have to be less restrictive about it. You can't just sit there and just slap DRM after DRM and restriction upon restriction. You can't do that. It's not. That is so consumer anti-friendly. It's just, it boggles my mind. Which I could go into a completely other rant with other parts of the Xbox One, like the used game market. I'm avoiding that. I've got a lot to say on that. I might later. I don't know. And I'm thirsty. Next up was the Sony precedent. And, you know, every E3 they declare a winner. This year it was Sony, because Sony comes out and basically just, hey, we've got games too, and we're not trying to take over your television and entertainment center. And, yeah, games still work the same way. It's a console. We don't care. If you want to sell it back, you want to give it to a friend, you want to throw it out a window, whatever, we don't care. Once you buy it, we don't care because we got your money. That's all. That was their take on it. And speaking of money, oh yeah, by the way, we're $100 cheaper than the Xbox One. At that point, you could just see fans on both sides going batshit crazy. Xbox fanboys are raging that this is cheaper. PlayStation fanboys are raging that it's cheaper, but on the other side of the spectrum, people are making all of these conclusions. The last time Sony undercut someone by this margin, it was the PS1 versus the Saturn, and look how the Saturn turned out. They're also making similar comparisons between Saturn's weird hardware architecture and its restrictions on how games had to be made. They're making these comparisons, and you know, they're not far off. I mean, it's an apt comparison, because it's what it is. It's a comparison. But I also think gaming has kind of evolved since the 90s, and since the 32-bit era, there's been a lot of changes. I mean, if we were just doing a direct PS1 to Saturn, you know, comparison, no, it's not. Because it never will be. The consoles function completely differently. But Sony came out and also showed off a couple of games that interested me. Final Fantasy XIV, or excuse me, Final Fantasy Versus 13, which is now Final Fantasy 15, kind of intrigues me. Mostly because I saw the original trailer for Versus 13, you know, 4 years ago, something like that. I forget how long ago. I forget when 13 originally came out and when it was shown off. And I thought, hey, this looks pretty badass. Guys materializing weapons around him. That looks really cool. I kind of wonder what game mechanic that functions with. And it's just now coming out as 15. Little disappointed that they're rebranding it as 15. Just seems like a cop-out to me, but, you know, I understand the reason behind it. They also showed off Kingdom Hearts 3, which I'm a huge Kingdom Hearts fan. Obviously, I'm doing the series as a Let's Play right now. And that just... My wife lost her shit completely at that one. She's like, oh my god, we're buying a PS4. We're buying it. That's hands down. I no longer have a say in this. I'm buying a PS4. And then I got to thinking about it. It's like, I don't have to buy a PS4 for a while. I mean, think about it. 15, which used to be Versus 13, was shown off years ago. Was supposed to be for the PS3. Never came out. Never materialized. They showed a trailer for Kingdom Hearts 3 saying that it's in development, which means it could be another 4 or 5 years before it comes out. Like wait. You got my hopes up for a console for nothing. And I just kind of once I realized that, I'm like, oh my god, I could get it. I'm excited about an next gen. Oh wait, it's Square. It's gonna take for freaking ever to come out. Boo. So I was excited, and then I was subsequently let down because of the realization of how the world works. And then there was Nintendo. Nintendo. Guys, I supported you last generation. You were my go-to system last generation. I've got more Wii games on my shelf than any of the other consoles for this generation. I've got both. I've got the 360 and the PS3, and even once I get all of my PS3 wish list, I'm still going to have more Wii games. And you guys were just disappointing. I mean, I understand not having a press conference. You don't need to have a press conference, especially since you didn't have a new console. If you had a new console, I could kind of see needing to have a press conference. But just games, you don't need to do that, especially with what you tried to do. You just fell flat on your face doing it. Okay, let's have a live stream where we're just going to show off the games we're working on. We're going to show off the stuff that we're preparing for the Wii U. We're only going to stream it on one source, Ustream, which had millions of viewers. Millions of people watching. So much so that my stream could not go more than 2 minutes without having to buffer for 2 minutes. So I missed half the stream. I had to go back and re-watch it. Actually, what I ended up doing is I watched it on the Ustream UK site, because it only had a couple thousand people watching. So I got around it by watching that. That's a sad realization that you did not plan for this. Very disappointed in that. It's like, if you're going to stream it to Ustream, stream it to Twitch, stream it on, you can stream on YouTube. You can do that. You have the power. I have the power to do that. Why did you not do that? Spread it out so that you don't completely clog down one site to where it's not watchable. That was just stupid. Secondly, the games that they showed off were actually really disappointing for the most part. And I'm gonna talk about this. Alright, so the Wii U in itself is kind of a disappointment to me. Because they didn't market it well enough. People think it's, still, to this day, people think it's an add-on for the Wii. It's not. It's a standalone console. In case you were one. I know all of my viewers know this, but I feel the need to say this. It is a standalone console with a completely different control system with the tablet. Now, the games they showed off look just like Wii games, just a little bit nicer looking. And they are Wii games that are just a little bit nicer looking. Retro's big reveal is they're working on another Donkey Kong Country game. Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. Now, I love Donkey Kong Country Returns. It was fantastic. Fun game. But this just seems like a sequel, like a direct rehash sequel. Like, this could have been out on the Wii, just not as pretty, slightly. It's not a system seller. It's not a killer app that takes advantage of the control pad. It doesn't show, like, I don't see why using the Wii U tablet controlling Tropical Freeze is any better than Classic Controller Pro, Wiimote, Nunchuck, any of that stuff. I don't understand. You need to sell me on why the Wii U is a new system. Mario 3D World. This is the game that actually should have been released with the freaking console. New Super Mario Bros. Wii U was poor. It was piss poor. It was the same game that we just played, similar to Donkey Kong. It doesn't really take too much advantage of the control pad. It doesn't really sell me on the control pad. But Mario 3D, this is the game that should have come out to say, hey, we're at least trying something different. And I'm actually kind of looking forward to that game. That one looks a little interesting. Then they had Smash Brothers. Still, does not sell me on the control pad. It sells me on the console because I'm a sheep and I love Smash Brothers, so I'm going to buy it. But it doesn't sell me on the control pad. And that's really Nintendo's biggest problem. They are not utilizing the whole reason why they came out with this new system. What they should have done is just created the Wii U and said, oh, if you have a Wii, trade it in and you get half off. And it's the same damn system. Nintendo really did not wow me with any of that as far as why do I need this control pad? Why do I need a brand new system? Because it's just slightly better looking. Because I'm in the minority here. I really do not give two shits about graphics. It's gameplay. The game has to be fun to me. So I don't care that Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze looks... I don't care that it's in 1080p versus Donkey Kong Country Returns, which is in... I don't even know what... I did not pay attention because I don't care. And that's really it. So those were the three big conferences, and I was just really kind of let down. I mean, I'm probably gonna be I'm buying a PS4 obviously eventually when Kingdom Hearts 3 comes out. I'm a little disappointed in the PS4 that it doesn't have analog out. It only has HDMI, and I say this because I have a very first gen HD TV. Like it's you guys can't really see it because it's right off screen here, but it supports 1080p, 1080i. I don't remember what. It's old, but it's HD. It's legitimate HD. It doesn't have an HDMI port though. That's the problem. And so I'm like, well, if I get a PS4, how am I going to play it on this TV with all of my other consoles? It's like, I'm not buying a new TV just to play a new system. And I've seen a lot of arguments online of, oh, if you can't afford an HD TV, then you shouldn't be buying. Shut the fuck up. Seriously. If you are that fucking condescending, you are the reason why gamers have a bad stigma. Seriously. Say I've got $400 to spend. Should I spend it on a new TV when I've got a perfectly functional TV that still does HD? Versus a console that I would like to play new games on. Not everyone's made out of fucking money. And if you seriously start throwing that argument around, you are the worst type of gamer, and you are the reason why gamers have a bad name. I'm just saying that. It's like, some people have to be kind of frugal with their money. If I have, and most of the time I don't have $400 to spend. I'm probably not going to have $400 to spend on the PS4. But I'm still going to spend it. And I'm going to regret spending that money because it's a large chunk of change leaving my wallet when I have, a house to, spend money on. There's always something, if you own a house, you know that there's always something that needs to be done. So that $400 could probably go to something in the house. But I'm not going to spend $400 on a console and then be badgered and have belligerent people yell at me that I should spend money to upgrade my TV when I've got a functional HD TV. Just, that's all I'm saying for that. And I'm gonna go ahead and go back to this because I'm fired up now. I'm in a mood. Used games. Used games. The Xbox One and its used games problem. If I see one more comment about how Microsoft is doing developers a favor by restricting used games because used games hurts publishers, used games do not hurt publishers as badly as they want you to think. It's like the recording industry saying that MP3s hurt the music industry. If I can buy a CD for 99 cents, oh my god, that hurts the music industry. No, it just hurts their bottom line because they want to make more fucking money. Seriously. Used games are the same way. Everyone's like, oh, games are a service. Games are a service. No, they're not. Games are entertainment. Games are not a service. Oh, well, you play online. You play on their servers. It's a server. No. If you have two brain cells to rub together to generate, a thought, a used game doesn't hurt them. Because if they have servers for online play, they had to have budgeted that in somewhere down the line. What people seem to think is used games just kind of appear and materialize out of thin air, and they don't. For used games to be used, someone had to have bought it and then traded it back in. So think about it this way. If I buy a game, I'm giving my money to the developers and publishers. They get the new game sale. I don't like it. I trade it back in. Someone else buys that game. There's not more people on their servers playing because I'm not playing anymore. The number has stayed static. It hasn't increased because, again, the used games don't just materialize and people are just buying used games over. It's not changing. It's not say they need, I used this argument before, say they need 100,000 people online, or they need 100,000 sales to justify the game cost and the online service. They get that. 100,000 copies are sold. I'm one of them. And again, I trade my game in. I'm no longer playing, so that drops the number down. But then someone else buys it, number goes back up to the same number of people playing. There's not magically more people playing. The only reason that happens is due to software piracy, and that has nothing to do with the used game market at all. So if you want that, go after the pirates. Don't go after the people who just want to buy a game because they're not sure they like it, or someone who bought it and then turned out to not like it and don't want to be stuck with it. No other physical media sale on the planet is treated like games. But because someone said developers need more money, people feel that the game industry needs this. And I just don't feel that that's true. I don't. I really don't. If I buy a book, the publisher... If I buy a book used, and a lot of you people who are watching who've gone to college know this with textbooks, you don't buy a brand new textbook unless you absolutely have to, because they're freaking expensive. You buy them used to save a couple of bucks, and then you sell them back to save a couple more. Why is that any different than games? Why should that be treated any different than games? Because textbooks have a ridiculous markup? Games have a ridiculous markup. Games do not need to be millions upon millions of dollars as this sort of AAA market. It doesn't need to be. And I talk about this in the game industry rant, or the game industry crash rant. It's like, it does not need to be this huge AAA market. Spend what you need to. Don't spend millions of dollars licensing an engine when you can't afford it. Or if that's going to make it so that you have to sell 4 or 5 times as many games. It's not a sustainable business model. Just make a half-decent game. That's really it. I mean, I guarantee you Nintendo does not spend nearly as much money on their games. And they came out with a statement at E3 saying, if you're worried about people trading in games, make better games. And that's kind of the agreement I've got to make. If you're making a Call of Duty, a Battlefield, these yearly serial games, they're not good. You're just making one every year to capitalize on that, and that's the business model that can't really be sustained. Nintendo doesn't come out with a Mario title every year. They don't come out with a Zelda title every year, at least not the same type. They'll do one for like a handheld, one for the console, but they don't come out with Mario Galaxy 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 each year. If they did, then they would be in the same boat, because then they're spending too much money on one franchise when one's enough. Like, really. You don't need to do one game every year. Did you not pay attention to how Rock Band sucked every year? And people stopped caring about it? Same with Guitar Hero? Pay attention, guys. Really. Oh. So yeah, that's my E3 rant. I was excited, and then I was let down, and then I was excited, and then I was let down again. So, eventually I'm going to be buying a PS4. Eventually I'm going to be buying a Wii-U. Maybe if they come up with a game that actually, you know, seems like a killer app for what it does versus the Wii, it might happen. Other than that, I'm sticking. Those are what I'm sticking with. I'm avoiding the Xbox One simply because I still don't understand what it does, and if I don't understand a piece of technology to that extent, because you've got so many people tripping over themselves trying to explain it, and having to re-clarify and re-clarify and re-clarify again what you meant, it sounds like there's some holes in your story that I don't trust that when it comes to technology that's going to be always on and requires that level of restriction, I will say. So yeah, I'm gonna go because I'm exceptionally tired, obviously, because, you know, I'm sitting here ranting longer than I really thought I would be. So I'm gonna go, and I hope you guys have enjoyed E3. I hope you guys found something worth spending money on in E3. That's really the takeaway from it, because again, I love the game industry. I love it. I would love to be a part of it, but at this point I'm sticking toward indie games now. That's the sad truth. Like, the indie developers who actually seem to care. Like, Kickstarter has been my friend. I was more interested in the last round of Kickstarter stuff than I was really interested in E3. And that's where I can see the industry going, is to stuff like that. Smaller, crowdfunded, more personal, rather than big companies telling me what I want when I don't want it. So yeah, anyway, done rambling. I'm gonna go. Again, I hope you guys found something at E3 that you liked. I hope you enjoyed it. It was fun to watch. That was about it. So I'm gonna go, and I will catch you guys later.